Cool. So building Slackbots in Go. That's the talk. So I went on a little adventure a little while ago. Do I need this? Is this too much? Can you hear me in the back without like, yeah? Yeah, you can? Okay, cool. So I won't use this. But yeah, so I went on a little adventure with Go and Slackbots. I wanted to kind of see what it was like to write one and figure out kind of what the process is. So I thought I'd kind of do a quick little talk on that and kind of show you guys what that's like. So my adventure started with a bit of a meme. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with Gordon Ramsay, but he's this like very angry chef. And he's like famously angry. So I saw this little meme that was kind of focused on him, where you could basically get a personalized insult from Gordon Ramsay. And the basic thing was what you do is you take the month that you were born, and it's basically like a bunch of lookup tables. So you take the month that you were born, the first letter of your first name, and then the first letter of your last name, and you would kind of look them up, and then you get this insult. So if your name is Sam Quixote, your insult ended up being, "Get a grip, you proud gremlin." And I don't have the lookup table here because it's actually like pretty bad. So, but yeah, that's probably the most PG one. So I do have the code for this up online at GordonBot on my GitHub and stuff. So if you want to check it out there, that's a little bit more polished than what I'm going to show you. I'm kind of just showing the broad strokes of how it works and stuff. So yeah, so what's the first step? So the first step is really you're going to go into Slack and set up integration. And from that, you're going to get an API token. So you'll go to your Slack team /app/new. And that will create, you go to a page where you can create your bot. You give it a name, you get the API token, and you can add a little profile image. So that's kind of looked like this for the Slack bot that I had. So that's pretty simple, right? So you have your API token, and now we'll jump into some code here. So I'm leaning super heavily on a library called Slack, pretty predictably, right? And yeah, so we grabbed that. So Slack's got a WebSocket-based API. They call it RTM. It's their like real-time message API. So this library kind of works with that, and it helps you set up that kind of system really, really easily. So yeah, so this is what that kind of looks like at a high level. You can see we kind of create a new instance of the library. We call it the object API here. You give it a token. We set up a logger, we set the debug mode on, and then we go and we create, we basically tell it to kick things off. So rtm.manageConnection, that's what kind of establishes the connection and sets up all the channels. And it starts listening to the WebSocket API. So you really don't have to do anything here in terms of actually the heavy lifting on the WebSocket part. Underneath the covers here, this Slack library is actually using the Gorilla Framework's WebSocket implementation. So it's like, the WebSocket part of this isn't kind of like half-baked. It's actually built on something else, which is pretty solid. So yeah, so after you've kind of set up this the library here, we set up a loop that basically listens to all messages on the incoming events channel. So from that, we can get this feed. So here, what we're doing is we're basically just listening to all the different messages. And that's it. So we're just going to print them out is the first thing. Oh, and that's what I just said. But yeah, so we're going to establish connection, listen to all the messages, and then print out the message data. And here's what that kind of looks like at a high level. So in the channel, what I did is I just typed hello to make sure it was working. And you can kind of see this log. It does work. So that's the first step. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go from this to basically trying to listen to all messages and tell when someone is kind of like adding the bot. So if it says like @Gordon or @GordonBot, we're going to listen for that and then respond with a message. So yeah, that's the next step here. This is what that looks like. So rtm.getinfo.user.id, that's probably the core of this. So that is a kind of a reference to what the bot's name is. So we're just basically checking every message if it contains a string with the bot's name and stuff. And if it does, we're going to respond with "it's burnt." And that's it. So just a nice Very typical like Gordon message, like super angry, right? And that's what this looks like, which is a bit much. So I kind of went from this to thinking like, I probably shouldn't unleash this bot on the organization. Like they probably wouldn't appreciate like a bunch of anger just sitting there in Slack for them. So I completely flipped it, and I made him super nice. And I made him say that he believes in people. So that was way better. So now we can go to the core of the whole task at hand here, right? We're going to make this into like a meme bot, right? So we kind of start out with our data. So we have these lookup tables of what actually is our message. And here's kind of what that looks like. This is kind of not the full map because this is kind of just a high level thing, right? So yeah, you can see January, we have our first part of the message, way to go. And then we kind of combine these last two parts to build the rest of the message. So yeah, super basic stuff. So here we're building the message basically. So we're looking up the month to get the first part of the sentence, and we're kind of creating this list, and then we're joining it together with this message at the end. So pretty standard stuff. So then we have our message, and we basically just, like we were doing before, we kind of send this message to the Slack channel, like that. And here's what that looks like. Very, very positive. So I kind of set it up so that it would send a random message if we weren't actually doing the meme. So anytime you would add it, it would just respond with something positive. So that's what it kind of looks like, which is nice. It's a fun little thing, right? And the more you kind of play with it, you get these fun little things, right? So here's a couple it's super positive, but here's a couple things that I really liked. He goes, "You rainbow infused manatee." I don't know. It was nice. Dangerously talented platypus. That was one I really appreciated. We could make it, you could do it so that it's super Canadian. Could have been a beaver, right? But yeah, whatever. That's basically the talk. Thanks, guys.